This is the EVP Podcast.
Hey, welcome to the EVP
There you
Podcast.
go.
I'm one of your hosts, Beaker.
I'm Ghosty.
And we did some stuff this weekend.
We sure did.
We went on an investigation.
Where did we go?
We went to a little place in West Haven, Utah, or Ogden, Utah, whatever the hell you want to call it, called Haunted Hollow. It's a haunted attraction.
Yeah, so this is like a Halloween attraction place where people go and they pay to get scared in the woods because it's an open acre plot of land.
How many acres?
12 acres.
13 acres.
13 acres.
Depending on who you're talking to.
12 to 13 acres.
If your travel channel is 12 acres. If you work at Haunted Hollow, it's 13 acres. I'm going to go with what Haunted Hollow says because they live there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's people that actually live there.
Well, I mean, you'd have to have somebody keeping control.
They do have the
grounds.
groundskeeper that live there, but when we went there was how many, like 5-6 trailer homes?
There's probably like 4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, there's, I don't know.
It's probably 3, but
It's 17. There's 13 acres of trailer homes. No, can you imagine? Well, it's like Asylum 49. The owner bought the house right next to the building, so. Mm-hmm. But can you imagine like living next door to a haunted house that's actually haunted?
That would, you would think it would spill over into your house?
No, it wouldn't. It's well, I don't know. They live, well, the whole forest is haunted though.
Yeah. So yeah, the
They
forest.
live right on the property.
Yeah.
I would be more concerned about the fact that like your house is right there where people stand in line to go to your haunted house.
Right, but I mean, you're home during it, so you,
This is
you
true.
can make sure, and you're you're keeping an eye on shit. So I think everything's kind of controlled.
So
Nobody's in
let's set
your
the
stuff.
tone. Let's set the not the tone. Let's set the tone. Let's
set
draw
the
you a
mood.
picture of this place.
Let's light a fire.
Yes. If you are tall like me, this is not the place for you. No, it's actually a really cool place. It's really well done up. I kind of want to go back as the haunted attraction, not for an investigation, just to see what it's like. Also, I haven't been to like a haunted attraction since, I don't know, Frightmares before COVID, so like 2018, 2019.
Damn,
And
that's
it's
been
just,
a while.
It's just Frightmares.
What's weird is that seems like it just happened, but that's been a while.
Yeah, COVID was 4 years ago.
That's crazy.
It's really cool how it starts out because you walk into a cave at the very beginning and you're going through like these tunnels.
Yeah, I like how they do that, and
And it was great for you. I did hit my head once. Fortunately, I was wearing my earphones. Earbuds? Headphones? My headphones. And they took the brunt of the hit. So I didn't have to worry about that. But walking through there, it's great for you short people. But it's just what they've done because they've taken this whole 13-acre forest and like built all these buildings and structures through this haunted house.
right, yeah, they've made all these things to go with each theme of the area that you're in of the haunted forest. So they have like a little black lagoon area.
Yes.
They have like a mine shafts.
They have the pirate ship.
Yeah, they have a pirate ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they had a lot of cool little areas.
I think I told you my joke that I always tell you when I see pirates and stuff. But for those of you that don't know the joke, do you know what a pirate's favorite letter is?
I do.
Well, most people would probably think it'd be the R, but really it'd be the C.
'Tis I.
But what else did they have? They had like the church with all the creepy ass nuns. One was showing a little ankle.
Oh, that's right. They did have that, and then they had the dolls.
They did have the dolls. Well, they also had that like area where they had the mesh stuff up above where we went through the first time, no problem. But when the lady that worked there was like walking us through it, my backpack got caught.
Oh yeah, I had to get you out of there.
Yeah. I got stuck. I tried to walk backwards. I was like, nope, not having it. And keep in mind, I'm 6'5". This ceiling was probably like, I don't know. To me, it felt like it was only 5 feet tall.
So you know the little handles on the zippers.
Yeah.
They have the little section where that connects to, where that kind of caught one of the net ropes.
They're not even that big.
No.
I was
just in the right place.
So to me, it felt like this ceiling was like 5 feet tall. So I'm like hunched over, like almost kneeling on the ground at this point. My backpack's stuck, and I'm sitting there like, I need help.
But There was a lot of open areas too, so
There was.
you got to stand tall during those.
It was great too. So when we first started out, I like to do this thing every time we're somewhere new, and because we went with Beaker and Ghosty tours, Sarah and Fiona, we had them on a couple months ago,
Yep.
weeks and weeks, whenever, I don't even know anymore. We had them on, and
It was recent.
they were hosting the event. And they, some tour guides do this, or some paranormal groups do this. So they're like, how many people are here for the first time? Or how many people are on their first investigation ever? And I'm always a smartass, especially when I know the people know me. I raise my hand like, this is my first time investigating. As I've got my backpack full of gear and I'm walking around like, I'm a noob. But they do their paranormal like 101 class for the people that are actually new.
Right.
They told us, like, if you promise to stay on the trails, you guys can go ahead. And not just us, like anyone that had their own equipment that kind of know how to investigate.
Right. Oh, the unknown investigators were there.
They were, Tristan was
there.
And we're going to we talked to him. We're going to try to set something up. We'll have Tristan back on the show as well.
Right on.
So we set off ahead while they did their class. And we wanted to kind of just walk through and kind of find some, what we thought were hot spots. So we could go back and investigate later. And not too far after the caves at the very beginning, there was a little cabin.
Yeah, there was like was it a storage shed thing, or was it it looked
like a storage shed. I mean, I think it was supposed to be a cabin.
It was a cabin because there was a stove and bed.
Yes.
And a couch. There was a couch. Yes.
You remember the couch?
Yeah.
And we stopped there for a second, and I just kind of looked at you, and I'm like, there's somebody in there. There's a spirit in there. So we kind of peeped it out a little bit, and I got the name Isaiah kind of popped in my head, so we ran with it, and we tried to talk to him for just. I was sensing
it standing behind the couch.
Yes, so we kind of we're still filling things out. We didn't want to stop and investigate because we knew people were going to be coming soon.
Yeah, we needed to keep moving.
So we continued on.
We set that. We pinned that on our map.
Put a pin in that, and we'll come back to it. We continued on through the attraction, and not too far past that, there was another little cabin thing surrounded by all these.
It was like a mechanic shop thing.
Yeah,
with a couple broken down cars.
And I think we kind of stopped after we got into the clearing because I think we just walked through some more tunnels, and I needed to stretch my head. And I think you picked up on them first, but I think so. There were a couple spirits inside that little shop, and I know you picked up on 3 of them, if I'm correct.
I think there's 2.
2? Yeah. So we walked around over to the cabin and kind of let them know, like, hey, we know you're here. If you want to talk, we kind of, little 5-minute investigation session. And then we're like, okay, we're going to scope out the rest of the place. We'll be back. So again, we were just kind of scouting the area.
Putting pins
on things and continued on. And then through the rest of the haunted attraction, we were just kind of like, hey, this is cool. But, we have our EMF meters. We have our EMF meters, and we had like 3 or 4 of them out.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because there was a lot of places where we would just get high EMF, like, all 5 lights on your K2, my brand new one that only lasts for like 5 minutes before it auto shuts off.
But it was pretty nice that
it was really nice for the 5 minutes it's on, and it's not even that bad. Like, it beeps at you when it turns off, so all you have to do is turn it back on
again. Yeah,
it was like $15 on Amazon, and it has a LED display. Like,
it's really not nice. Just the lights, LED lights. It's actually a display screen.
Like, it's an LCD screen.
LCD.
There we go. It's actually really cool. Other than the 5-minute auto shut off, but that EMF meter kept going off. Your K2 kept going off.
Yeah, a lot of cell phone towers.
Yep, there was a lot of. Well, I mean, you got all the wiring for the haunted attraction itself.
The lighting.
I mean, they have all their infrared cameras, their security cameras around the place. And you're right. There's a lot of cell phone towers. So we kind of noticed when we were in clearings,
it would go
high EMF.
We get coverage from the trees, and it would calm down.
Yes.
So and then we would see through the trees. Boom! There's a cell phone tower right there.
But the nice thing about that is it's gonna obviously mess with your EMF meters, but it also feeds.
It does
spirits.
feed.
It feeds the energy to the
obviously
spirits.
It's giving off a ton of EMF.
Right. So this is a perfect place for spirits to hang out. And,
So you got
and do
just an
activity.
EMF pump.
whole
You have
place.
you have a huge EMF pump,
Yeah.
just giving out all that energy for free.
Yes. And we just continued our tour and kind of just like, enjoyed what we could find. And then we only found like really, us personally, we found the 2 hot spots right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And we didn't really feel anything else through the rest of the haunted house, except for you did. Again, this is at the very beginning before you even get into the haunted house. There's a house on the property.
Yeah, there's a house built on the property.
And you were very adamant, like, we need to go in there and investigate.
Yeah, because I felt like there was things staring at us from up top there and just watching us do things. And then we couldn't even get... So it's a 2-story house, but we only had access to the bottom level.
Yeah, I really wanted to go
I didn't see any stairs.
Yeah,
I didn't see access to stairs, but you obviously had a second floor. So, only the... there was a door on the side of the house. I wonder if that went up.
Maybe. I don't know.
Damn it,
We'll
we
have to
didn't
go,
even try.
We'll go back. We'll have to go back.
But I was picking up on stuff in that house. And so we did go to the bottom level, and we did start to investigate there. And we got some responses.
We did. That's where I decided that we were going to do the SS method.
The SS method. And I kept trying to ask questions about who lived in that house, and nobody. I was getting replies. Some of those things were pretty good to your responses, but nobody was saying who lived in that house. And come to find out, I don't think anybody ever has lived in the house. So that makes sense, because I was
it's
getting
only been
replies
there
to
for
everything.
like 20 years.
Yeah, it's only been there for 20 years. And
What's funny is I thought Haunted Hollow itself was fairly new, and then doing the little bit of research that you can find online, the place has been around for like 24 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this house was built there.
As it being an attraction and everything. So, and I mean, the house itself does have a creepy look to it, like a haunted house. So they did a really good job on it. And, but yeah, there were definitely some spirits that were in that house, but yeah, nobody that had lived there previously. It's just a bunch of wandering spirits.
Well, we got
finding a
names
place to
through
live.
because it's interesting because most of the people you see do the SS method use the SB7 spirit box. And that's what I started out with. And I was picking up a lot of radio stations. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to switch over to the Echo Box.
I feel like we get better responses through the Echo Box.
Yeah, every time we tried the SS method with the SB7, it's not as good as it is with the Echo Box.
Right.
I don't know why that is, but we seem to always get better responses to the Echo Box.
Get with Kindred Spirits and see how they have their SB7 or SB11 set up when they do it, because they seem to always get really good responses.
Well, I think I should have had you pull out the Faraday bag to see if that would, or also I could try working with the ANC Mini some more.
Oh yeah, we could definitely try.
I don't know if the ANC Mini would help with the Estes method because that cuts out the static. Mm-hmm. So you're just hearing the voices. So at that point, I don't know if you need to do the Estes method.
Right.
But yeah, in our experience, it always works better with the Echo Box.
Yes.
I'm not saying that's how it's going to be for everybody, but that's just what it is
for us.
So you were asking like some of the names of the spirits there and how many people were there. And if I remember correctly, you were saying that I was spitting out answers almost immediately.
Yeah.
When you were asking these questions. I remember I was saying there was a couple times where I said like 5 and 12. I don't know what I was responding to though. Obviously, I don't know what questions you were asking. I haven't gone back and listened to the audio yet.
There was, I think one of them was how many spirits were in the house and then how many spirits were on the property. And I think the 5 were in the house and then the 12 were on the property.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah. And those were pretty like right on the question asked. Like as soon as I asked it, you answered it.
I do remember the names like...
Yeah, what was the name?
There was Benji.
Yeah.
Or Ben. I think there was an Andrew.
Benji, Andrew, and...
I don't remember. There was like 3 of them that I got through the Echo Box. And
Andrew. Yeah,
Benji and Andrew, for sure.
Andrew.
I'd have to go back and listen to my audio. But for those 2 names, for sure. And it was interesting because like I think I stopped the Estes method because I felt someone standing off to my left. And I'd still my eyes closed. I kind of shouted out, I'm like, who's standing over there? And you're like, there's nobody there. And I'm like, no. At this point, I opened my eyes.
Yeah, I think you're somebody standing
I'm like,
over here.
yeah.
You were someone like, standing here.
I'm like, there's someone. I'm like, there's someone there. I'm like, someone came and joined us. And it was really weird. Like, it literally felt like this person was just kind of right up on my shoulder.
Yeah. I got chills just now thinking about it because I know that sense that you're feeling, especially when your eyes are closed, your headphones on, and you just feel the presence.
I could feel your energy, and I kind of knew where you were at in the room. Mm-hmm. You were off to my right.
Mm-hmm. Kind of in front of you to your right.
Yeah. And there's the other doorway to the left. Like, you were blocking the one doorway, so no one's getting past you.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel someone walk to the other doorway, and I'm just like, who's over there? And we just kind of investigated for a little bit, and I think that's when we're like, all right, let's move on, because we were in that house for like half an hour. I think.
Yeah, and we wanted to go back to where we first started and started investigating that first spot we saw after the tunnels. But we also ran into somebody right as we were coming out. We kind of stopped with
so Sarah
and Fiona.
Fiona were there, and then there was one of the employees. One
of the caretakers. I can't remember. She was one of the caretakers of the property.
She was super helpful too.
Yeah, she took us to.
Well, we mentioned the name. I don't know if it was at this point. I did hear it in the audio where we mentioned that we got the name Benji or Ben, and she's like, someone else has also gotten that name before too. Like, they've heard the name Ben before, so that's not just something that we got. That's something that's
been there before.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that I
didn't hear her say that part. That's cool.
I think it was while we were by the river. Is when we were talking about
I was kind of zoning out, looking at shit.
The river was interesting. So we did.
I didn't even know there was a river there.
I didn't either.
But it was really calm, and you couldn't really hear it.
Well, moving. And then watching the Ghost Adventures episode, there's a big ass river right next to this place. I'm just like, holy crap!
It's wide. It's really wide. Yeah. But it was very calm, and it was very covered in like duckweed, kind of how my tank is over there.
I think before we met up with her is when we went back and tried to investigate that first cabin.
Yes.
And we could tell the guy was there, but we weren't getting really any responses.
I felt like he walked off as we started asking stuff. Oh.
Yeah, you did mention that.
Yeah, because it was like we got a couple responses on the Ovilus. And then it was like after that, everything just died. And those responses just kind of seemed like a smart ass, like saying it as you walk out of a room type shit. Yeah. And that kind of felt like that's what he had done.
Well, so after that, that's when we went back to the other, like the mechanic shop, and tried to investigate there a little bit. And they weren't very communicative.
No, they kind of just seemed like
they didn't want to communicate.
Yeah, no interaction, just kind of there, but not wanting to do anything.
Yeah. So I think that's when we went over to the big house and investigated afterwards, because you kept being drawn there. So after the big house is when we met up with Sarah and the caregiver, and they were asking if we got a certain name, and we're like, nope, we haven't gotten that yet, but if we do, we'll let you know. But then we asked the lady if there's any hot spots, and she's like, well, there's the church where Aaron got scared at Ghost Adventures. I'm like, okay, cool, take us there. And then there's like the river. There's a certain spot near the river. So she walks us through the back path, and I was like, thank God, because I'm not going to hit my head.
Yeah, that was awesome, though. We got a straight shot and didn't have to do the zigzaggy duck and cover.
So we get back to the church, and there's a couple of people standing in that room where Aaron got scared, and we're just kind of like, let's move on. Let's go to the forest. Let's go to the river. So we get to the river, and that was, to me, one of the most interesting parts of the night.
Yeah, that was really odd, the things that happened at that point. Yeah, and let's talk about that, because I'm still wrapping my head around what happened.
So she walks us over to this wide-ass river, and you can barely see how wide it actually is, because it's pitch black.
It's pitch black, and the water's calm, so it's not moving.
Right.
Yeah, it's not till you...
I don't know about you, but you kind of get this feeling, and she had mentioned this to us as well, but you kind of get this feeling like there's someone on the other side of the river that wants you to go talk to them. Like, they want you to try to get over to them. And she mentioned this, that there's actually a spirit there that tries to lure people into the river. And they actually had one of their investigators or one of their employees, I can't remember exactly who it was, but they said that they started walking like towards the river, like they were going to start walking into the river. So there are a couple spirits there that try to beckon you and try to bring you into the river. And I don't know how deep that is or how fast it actually flows, if it's flowing at all. But when she was like mentioning that, I'm like, so how many people have drowned in this river? And she's like, oh, quite a few. Because I just kind of got the feeling that's what that whole spirit's intention was, is to lure people in and drown them. And I'm not saying he's actually been successful, but it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think the people that have died in that river were, recreationally doing something and then something bad happened. But I did sense the presence of somebody on the other side of that river. It wasn't making me feel like I wanted to go into the river or anything, but it did draw me towards it to get a better look at it. So, I mean, I don't feel like it was trying to make me go into the river, but I definitely was making me want to go get a better look.
Right.
And, but yeah, I was definitely feeling something, and, right across, right in that area, right across from where we're standing.
When listening to a little bit of the audio this morning, I mentioned that. I'm like, it's straight across from you. And you're like, yeah, I can feel him right there. And I go, well, there's actually another one over here off to the left, another one off to the right. I'm like, there's 3 spirits over there. Before I started pointing out all the spirits, the tour guide was like, it's like, so how many spirits can you sense here total? And I'm like, there's 3. And I'm sitting there thinking in my head with possibly a 4th one. And she's like, she got all excited. She's like, yeah, that's what this medium that came through here said, is there's 3 spirits being controlled by another spirit. And I'm like, okay, I can get that. I'm like, I do feel the 3 for sure. I'm like, if there's a 4th one, he doesn't want me to know that he's there, because I can't. I'm like, I kind of have a feeling that he's there, but I can't pick up his energy. And then I told her, I'm like, did you get names on any of these? And she's like, no. I'm like, well, this is Isaiah. And that's when you kind of lit up and you're like, I told you he left the cabin, because we kind of figured it was the same spirit, right? I'm like, the one straight across, the one that seems to be the kind of like the ringleader of the 3, I got his name was Thomas. And then the 3rd one off to our right, I said his name was Jeremiah.
Okay.
And here's the thing is, like, I don't know if that was actually his name or if my brain was just making association to the restaurant we ate before we went there, because it was also called Jeremiah.
Oh yeah, we did eat at Jeremiah.
So then I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, is that really the spirit's name, or was I just thinking about the food, or was like this restaurant possibly named after this spirit? I don't know. So I was very sure that those were the names though: Isaiah, Thomas, and Jeremiah. Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, we've never gotten those names from anybody else. And I'm like, okay, well, now you know those names. See if anybody else gets those. And I think it would be interesting to find out, to hear back from them if anybody else ever gets those names. It's nice being validated sometimes.
But then
it got really creepy feeling.
We got joined by
before all that. We got joined by the other people.
It was before we got joined?
So before we got joined, while we're standing by the river, the whole energy just like shifted. It just started feeling dark and heavy. I remember her talking about how her body temperature started rising.
Right. She kind of got a little, she was getting affected by something.
I know you were kind of focused on the river. I was like, I kept hearing, granted we're in the forest, right? Mm-hmm. And it's possible there's animals walking through.
I was hearing the bullfrogs.
You were hearing the bullfrogs, but I was hearing in the woods. So we had the river in front of us. We had the woods behind us, but that's where the haunted attraction was and the trails were, right? Mm-hmm. I do remember seeing like the light that was shining through the trees, which was possibly had lights of cars driving through. Mm-hmm. So, but I heard like twigs snapping and footsteps. And I'm just like, that could be people walking through. So I started yelling out. I'm like, hey, is anybody there? And I'm like, yo, are you there? Is anyone there? And we're getting like no responses. We're not hearing whispering or anybody talking.
Or more footsteps or anything.
More footsteps. It just sounded like it was directly behind us. And then a couple minutes later, another group actually did show up. We were standing by the river.
Yeah, but we saw them approaching and heard them approaching.
So it was very different from when they showed up to what we were actually hearing with the wood, like the branches snapping and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then when that other group showed up, like the whole energy just lifted. It felt lighter.
And then one of the guys that was with that group stayed with us because he knew the caretaker. I think that group was Wasps.
Yeah, Wasps.
And they're the ones that they were at the Ghost Island.
Yes, the Antelope Island.
But anyways, so one of those guys were sticking around and talking, and something happened where something came, like you got touched.
No, this is later.
This was later?
Yeah, no.
Was he with us?
He was not with us. He was not with us. It was other people. That was in the church. So while we're standing at the river, we're talking to him for a little bit.
Okay.
And I told him I got, the lady told him that I got some names. He's like, oh, does any of them start with a V? And we're like, nope. And, earlier in the audio, I can hear the lady say that, like, oh yeah, some people's got like a female's name, but we don't say who it is. We want to see people get it. And I'm not going to say the name. And she asked us like if we had picked up on what the name was, and we both said it, but at the same time, like Sarah had actually told us before.
Yeah, we already
knew the name. But while we were sitting there talking, I'm going to pull this up here and I tried to get the audio quality the best I could in the little time that I had. But someone had mentioned that that they went through like the room with the spiders and they were playing with the spiders. So this was the caretaker's response to that.
It's the same way. He has to mess with spiders. It's like, leave him alone. Vincent's the same way. He has to mess with spiders. It's like, leave him alone. Vincent's the same way. He has to mess with spiders. It's like, leave him alone.
So it kind of sounds like someone saying yes.
So yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. I was actually looking for the other incident that you were talking about and found this EVP. And you can hear like the first time, because I set it up to where it plays 3 times, the second 2 times with the audio enhanced. The first time is the way it was on the file. And you can kind of hear it very light at the beginning. That's why I amplified it to kind of, so you can hear it better. But it did sound like, when she was saying Vincent plays with the spiders, it does sound like someone going, yes, which I thought was really cool. Do we want to do that again, or do we want to?
You can do it one more time.
Let's do it one more time. Here we go.
Boop. Vincent's the same way. He has to mess with spiders. It's like, leave him alone. Vincent's the same way. He has to mess with spiders. It's like, leave him alone. Vincent's the same way. He has to mess with spiders. It's like, leave him alone.
So sorry to anybody listening with headphones. Just you deal with it. We're playing EVPs on the EVP podcast.
That's right. And then the time where that I was trying to talk about where.
So yeah, we went back to the chapel church thing with all the creepy ankle showing nuns.
And that's where it happened, was over there.
That's where we had, yeah.
Okay.
Because we originally walked past that with the tour guide lady because there was people there. When we came back, I don't know if it was different people or if it was the same people, but I finally was just like, she's like, oh, I'm going to go back. And I asked the other people, I'm like, do you mind if we join you? And they're like, no, not a problem. So we set up our equipment, got the Ovilus out, and they get all jealous and excited because we have the Ovilus and they don't. And we're just talking about like different equipment. And then they started talking about when they went to the Zach Baggins museum, and they talked about the Al Capone room. And I go, there's an Al Capone room? And as we're talking, I'm just going to play the audio. And I kind of cut it a little bit. This is going to be about 30 seconds long. So what I've done is I played what kind of happened. You can hear me talking, and then you hear what happens. And then I clipped a little bit forward when we were trying to investigate. And what I found is a possible EVP. I did the same thing there where I just played the audio normal, and then I enhanced it where I think on the normal, you may not hear what I heard, but you're going to hear it on the enhanced part. So I'm going to play this file real quick, and then we'll discuss.
One year, the 2021, I went in April, and then went again in December with him. And
Oh.
You lost something?
No, I just felt it touch my shoulder.
Oh, something fell.
I know it wasn't this. You weren't near it. I know it wasn't this. You weren't near it. I know it wasn't this. You weren't near it.
Okay, so you hear that, right? We're standing there discussing the Haunted Museum, and you hear me just stop. And then it's like right after that, you hear that thud.
So that thud, if you can play that thud again. Listen.
Okay, I'll do just the.
Listen to that velocity as it hits.
One year, the 2021, I went in April, and then went again in December with him. And
like, that's loud as shit.
Right.
That thing came down with some force. So if you can imagine standing there and then hearing that hit, like, it sounded like a rock or an acorn or a pine cone, something heavy that was way, way, way up tall at the top of the tree, and then just came straight down with like full velocity and slapped the ground that hard. That's what it sounded like. You felt like just a light brush up against you. So it barely missed you. And we couldn't find what the hell that was. We looked around,
searched.
We looked around all over in that area because it just barely grazed you, and we couldn't find a damn thing.
Well, with how hard that hit on the ground.
Yeah.
Like if it was that.
If it would have hit your head.
Well, I mean, just the way it hit my arm, there's no way that I would have slowed it down to where it wasn't hitting that hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it felt like, and I mean, you hear me pause before you hear the thud, right? Mm-hmm. So I felt it, obviously, before it thuds on the ground. Mm-hmm. But for me, it felt like it started at the top of my shoulder and went to my elbow, and it was very, very light. And it wasn't like, I mean, it didn't feel like something small, round, just like I'm part of my arm. It literally felt like a hand was being kind of drug across my arm. Like it covered the whole side of my arm to my elbow. It wasn't just like one isolated spot. It was like the whole side of my arm. I feel this, and that's why I stopped talking in that clip, is because I felt this. And then you hear the thud in the audio, right? Mm-hmm. And then you hear a little bit of shuffling because that's me jumping. And it was funny because like going back to the audio, like that all happened, and then we just kind of continued the conversation for a minute. And then we started like, well, what the hell was that? And like there's a foam piece of thing on the ground. I'm like, well, was it this? Because that's, I mean, you saw how big that foam on the ground was, right?
But
that's what I thought it was, because that's how big it felt touching my arm. But it was very, very soft, very light.
Yeah, and there was no way that thing would make that noise. And
here's what I found interesting about this is y'all, and you hear me say this in the audio. I clipped it out because I didn't want to make the clip
that long,
too long for the episode here. But I didn't hear that thud.
Yeah.
And you can clearly hear my feet shuffling like a little bit after the thud because I jumped. I'm like, what the hell? I was standing next to the skeleton mannequin. I thought maybe I brushed up against the mannequin, and the guy we were with, he's like, no, you were quite a ways away from that. Like you weren't close enough to actually bump into that.
Yeah, it was a few inches away from you even after backing up. And just looking around, there wasn't a lot of area for whatever would have hit the ground to have gone to. Like there was no bouncing sound. Like it didn't hit anything else. We didn't hear it roll away. It just made that noise and it was gone. And there was nothing there on the ground to find. So maybe it wasn't even something that fell and hit the ground. It could have just been energy using it, like brushing against you. And like, I don't know, maybe there's something we haven't ever heard or known about before, but maybe they can manipulate energy to make some kind of like thunderclap or something.
Well, there has been a time where, and again, it's opposite of this, because I did not hear that thud. I thought you were all just making it up, because I'm like, you're like, there was a loud thud, and yeah, I did jump and I kind of shuffled my feet, but that was after, like a little bit after the thud. So like, I should have. I mean, my mind was probably.
Remember, because I don't remember feeling the thud hit the ground, because you know, if you're standing near something, when it hits the ground hard, you can feel the vibrations.
No,
on your feet.
I didn't feel it. No,
I didn't. I don't remember feeling that either.
What caused me to jump was being touched on the shoulder.
Being touched, and I reacted to that sound.
Yeah, I reacted to being touched. I didn't hear the sound. Where at Benson Grist Mill, when I got kind of touched there in the parking lot, I was with Mark, who's been on the show before, and Caden and his wife. Caden's also been on the show before. Mark said he felt a shift in energy, and Caden, like I saw both Mark and Caden kind of like jump at me as this was all going down. I heard this extremely loud popping noise.
That's right. I remember you saying that before. Yeah.
And I found out a couple hours later, I'm just like, I was texting Caden. I'm like, why do I get the feeling that y'all didn't hear that popping noise? And he's like, what popping noise? I thought like maybe a transformer had blown up or something, because there's cell phone towers again next Benson Grist Mill. Mm-hmm. And I had the popping noise, and what we determined it was is they kind of broke through my protection barrier that I usually have on me on an investigation, trying to get into my energy field, and that's why I heard the popping noise. But like I said, it was very different in this situation because I didn't hear that thud, and that's loud. Like my audio recorder picked that up, and it sounds loud in the audio.
It was
recorder.
loud as shit.
right? And I didn't
And
hear
it was
that.
like right there by, I mean, you could hear it by our feet, by your feet.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel the vibration of it hitting the ground.
I didn't either.
But I could hear
But I was also
the direction.
jumping at the same time, too,
right.
but-
I felt I could hear the direction of where it came from. You know, and I just didn't hear, or I just didn't feel the reaction of it actually hitting the ground. So maybe, like I was saying, it wasn't anything tangible. It wasn't a physical object that
Not that we could find.
Yeah,
Nothing, because it was leaves and
sticks,
styrofoam.
and the sticks were big pieces or very small, like small pieces that would not make that noise hitting the ground. Like that was loud.
I mean, it was a loud thump. Like it sounded like a rock or something hitting the ground. But the way,
Well, coming with some velocity,
right? But with how light I got touched, like I mean, it just doesn't add up.
No, but that was that. So that was a little unexplainable, even with what knowledge we have from investigating. Like that one's a hard one to. That's a really cool experience.
So at the end of that clip, when the guy's talking, he's like, whatever he said.
You can hear
You
a
can
woman's
hear
voice.
it almost sounds like someone laughing. That's what I hear.
Yeah, and it's almost, I couldn't tell if it was laughing. Like you said, I didn't realize it till just now. I can hear that now, but I didn't know if it was counting. I didn't know if she was a female counting or a female laughing.
I don't know. Let's. I'm going to play that again. But it's, to me, this whole thing was interesting. It's just kind of like, if, in my opinion, I had a spirit touch my arm. I don't think it was anything physical or living. Not that rocks and that are living, but I don't think it was something on this plane of existence.
Yeah,
I
and
think it was something on a spiritual
I
plane.
heard something that sounded like something but from what I know, I couldn't see how that could have made that noise. I couldn't find anything that could have made that noise. So it was a sound I'm familiar to, but I don't know what could have made that.
Well, and I did have this conversation with Brandy where I told her about the experience, and she didn't disagree with me, so I'm going to go with it was paranormal, but maybe she's just letting me have my moment. I don't know, but I'm going to play this again because this to me was the most interesting part of the night. So here we go.
One year, the 2021, I went in April, and then went again in December with him. And
Oh.
You knocked something?
no, I just felt it touch my shoulder.
Oh, something fell.
I know it wasn't this. You weren't near it. I know it wasn't this. You weren't near it. I know it wasn't this. You weren't near it.
So to me, it almost sounds like it's like,
Okay, yeah, that's what I hear.
That's what I'm hearing.
That's what I'm
if,
hearing.
If y'all hear something different, if you can hear it counting, or if you, I mean, to me, it sounds like a kind of a light chuckle, like it did touch my shoulder, right? It caused this sound, and we're all sitting there trying to figure out what it is, and it's just laughing at us. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. And then so that impact sounds like a splat. Like it sounds like a splat, but it also could be a clap.
That's true. I'm going to play that part one more time.
One year, the 2021, I went in April, and then went again in December with him. And
Oh.
And it almost sounds like it does hit and then bounce a couple times before you hear my feet shuffling.
So you hear it like there's like that echoey effect of that's what it's like, a splat.
We're going to do it one more time. Maybe. Here we go.
one year, the 2021, I went in April, and then went again in December with him. And the 20,
Wrong button.
the 20,
I'm good at this game. 20. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it does reverberate, I guess. It does. It's not just the initial thud. It almost sounds like it's bouncing, or maybe they're clapping a couple times, or whatever that is. We have no idea.
Yeah, I can't tell if that's a reverberation from a clap or if it's like a rolling from a hitting sand and gravel. But it was just sand.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like
dirt.
dirt,
Yeah,
sand.
just underneath us is dirt.
Yeah. So it's not like rock. It's not rocky. And that's kind of like that sound kind of would sound like if it like a rock hit more into more rocks or something.
Yeah. That just sounded like maybe something hit the dirt and just bounced once or twice, but
even then, with that velocity,
with how fast it was coming down to actually, if it did to make it that loud and then bounce a couple times, not just thud and stop. Like,
yeah, we couldn't find anything there, even a rock, an acorn, a pine cone, because there wasn't even pine trees. It wasn't pine trees.
Dirt and leaves.
Those trees that were above us didn't hold things like that. It was just
they're more like birch trees or whatever.
Not birch trees.
Not birch. You know more about trees than I do.
Yeah, but they were just they're
not
kinds
the
that
type
have
of trees that have shit to fall off of.
Exactly.
Other than leaves.
Exactly.
And these trees are like huge.
So for something to come down with that velocity, it didn't make any sense. And to not find anything on the ground in just that small little area we were in didn't make sense either.
No, it didn't.
Because,
and like I said, I specifically looked for this part of the audio because I really wanted to discuss this. And the fact that I found what sounds like someone laughing at us while we're trying to figure out what hit the ground, just to me confirms that it was something paranormal, that it wasn't something in the physical realm that caused this sound.
So like if it was a clap or if they did something and took it away, I don't know, but it was actually, it was a really cool experience because it was very hard to put our finger on it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So very cool experience.
So that was pretty much the end of the night.
Was it the gray man? Because there's
the 9 foot or 8 foot gray man.
Was that the gray man teasing us?
Maybe.
So there's a story about the place, and one of their legends is the gray man, and the gray man is supposedly somebody saw this. And since then, more reports.
I think the original person they interviewed on Ghost Adventures,
one of the groundskeepers.
One of the groundskeepers,
and he had seen this, and it scared him. And
they say like you'd stare into his eyes and it like paralyzes you.
I don't know how many people have seen this at this point.
The Ghost Adventures episode was from like 2020, so like 4 years ago. At that point, they'd only like a handful of people said they'd seen it, like 3 or 4. And
that it's one of those things where if somebody thinks they see something or has seen something and they tell people about it, then more people start to claim they see it. You know what I mean? And nobody had seen this before up until this one point. It kind of makes me think that, this was their interpretation of how they saw something or how they saw a spirit.
Yeah.
And, maybe they saw the spirit looking like this. It could be one of the spirits that are there, and these other people might have seen another spirit, but automatically their brain goes to, oh, it's the gray man that one person's seen before. I saw it too.
It's quite possible. I didn't know that. So I didn't.
Or was it an alien?
Was it? It could have been an 8 foot alien.
8 foot alien.
Here's the thing: is like I didn't watch the Ghost Adventures episode. I didn't even know they'd been there at the time we went.
I remember seeing the episode after rewatching it. I forgot they had went there.
If you want to know the V name, you can watch the episode because they talk about it there too. But like I had no idea they'd been there. Like I said, I thought this was a brand new place. I didn't know how old it was.
I had known about the place for a while. I didn't know it was been around for that long, but that's pretty cool.
I didn't know either. I thought it was just the last few years.
It's just way out of the way for me to want to go to a haunted attraction that far away from the last 20 years.
But to go ghost hunting, I'm there.
Yeah,
it's definitely a place. So it meets the EVP standards. It's obviously over 100 years old.
It's 1,000 years old.
Not the haunted attraction itself, but what I thought was interesting is they made a big deal about it on Ghost Adventures about this land is over 1,000 years old, and everyone on Reddit talking about the episode is kind of like, well, no shit. What part of Earth isn't over 1,000 years old? Seriously. But it does meet the EVP standards of the over 100 years old people living there. There are a couple stories that here's the thing is there's some legends. Doing the research, there's very, very limited information on the actual grounds itself. So it's kind of hard to give you guys a history of the place. But according to someone they interviewed on Ghost Adventures, she said she believes that the Haunted Hollow is truly haunted because of extreme violence among 3 primary groups. There was the Ute tribe who occupied the lands for thousands of years. There was the Canadian fur trappers who arrived in the late 1700s, early 1800s, and the Mormons who arrived in the mid 1800s. She said that the groups fought over control of the land because of its prime location for hunting and setting up camp.
So there's a few rivers in the area, which the one also running through the property itself. So the fur trappers are going to be in those areas, in the swampy areas, looking for beavers and what have you. And then you have the natives who live there like, hey, what the hell are you guys doing? And then you have the Mormons who came in and also the natives going, hey, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, pretty
and
much.
Everybody's just like...
The Mormons came in and they're like, this is Deseret. And if you've ever
this is ours now.
Right. They, I grew up in that religion, right? And I've learned,
Same.
I've learned about the history, but watching there was a show on History Channel years ago called How the States Got Their Shapes, and seeing how much of the country the Mormons claimed when they came to Utah, it was like half the damn country. They're like, this is Deseret. I mean, they had like Washington, Oregon.
Well, they were trying to create
California.
their own country.
They were, and I mean, it was all of this. The Mormons like, this is ours.
Their whole idea was to create their own country, and with their own laws and everything, so they can escape any kind of laws they didn't want to get in trouble for.
So imagine the Ute tribe that's been here for ever, right? And you've got these two different groups of people moving in on their turf. Yeah. And they're like, this is ours now. And they're like, no.
Like, you can't have this, you son of a bitch.
Was it? I was reading or watching something where they talked about, like the natives like massacring people and killing people, and like mutilating their bodies after they're dead because they believed it cripples them in the afterlife.
Yeah, that's the whole point of scalping them.
Right. So on this particular plot of land, this area, they think there's been a lot of death, obviously, from these wars and massacres of all these groups fighting over the land. And then with the river right there, that's a perfect energy generator for spirits and spirit activity. Like we talked about, all the ambient EMF from all the cell phone towers and all the electricity right there. Mm-hmm. Like, this is like the perfect hotspot for paranormal stuff. The paranormal stuff. And I definitely want to go back because I feel like there's stuff we missed and areas that we could probably go and investigate a little bit better.
Like the second floor of that house.
Second floor of that house. There's something about the house. I just want to go back.
Yeah, I mean, do I think, like, there could be a lot of energy on that land still, but, that's just a small little piece of area compared to the whole broad section that this was going down in, where all these tribes, natives, and all these other things that happened. This is just such a small area, but I do think there is some energy. Not necessarily from all the way back then, but there is some stuff.
Yes,
and there is, and it's cool that they do let you investigate. So I do want to go back as well.
So there is one more local legend, I guess. I don't know how accurate this is or if this is actually true at all, but I did find the story kind of interesting. So I'm going to go over this real quick. It's the legend of Magnus Hurlbutt.
Hurlbutt.
I don't know. We're going to go with Hurlbutt because it sounds funny. Now, this article says, for years, the location had been known for the legend of Magnus Hurlbutt, a man who lived on the property when it was a gravel pit over 100 years ago. So people lived there 100 years ago, clearly haunted EVP standards. He lived in an old shack in the trees behind the railroad yard with several other vagrants. Now, one by one, his fellow bums disappeared until he was the only one left living among the trees. Thus, he became known as the Hermit of Ghost Hollow. Every now and then, someone would visit him and try to befriend him. Now, Magnus loved to have company and would sit by the fire and play his harmonica for his guests. However, when the guests tried to leave, Magnus would get violent. No guests have ever escaped the fury of Magnus. Now, after serious gravel slide that buried most of the pit and the pond of Magnus disappeared, his body was never found, but sometimes at night, a single lonely sound of a harmonica playing Magnus's favorite song, Old Susanna, can be heard. This was a song that Magnus practiced almost nightly as he sat at his campfire preparing for the next time a guest dared to visit. This harmonica could still be heard from time to time when there's a missing persons in the area. Now, a long time ago, I don't know when this article was written, so They say 15 years ago, so at this point it's probably like 20 years. Developers were about to make the property into a housing tract. The two out-of-state developers were never warned about Magnus's hurlbutt after staying.
Magnus's hurlbutt.
Magnus's hurlbutt. I added some extra stuff in there. Magnus hurlbutt. They never were warned about this spirit or this guy, and after staying on the property one night, were never heard of again. The same night, locals reported hearing a harmonica playing "Oh Susanna" and two men singing. The light of a campfire was also seen. Horrible screams were heard later that night, but upon investigation, no signs of the man, a campfire, or harmonica was found. These events have kept any further development from occurring and provided for the ultimate haunting experience. Every year, a couple of nights before opening, the lone harmonica can be heard. So yeah, I don't know how true that is. It's obviously just it's a local legend.
Yeah.
And knowing that now, I do want to ask those people about that. I want to go talk to them.
Yeah, nobody mentioned that at all.
No one mentioned, yeah. You would think the people that own the property, like if there's a legend like, oh yeah, sometimes we hear a harmonica playing "Oh Susanna," you think they would have mentioned that.
Yeah.
They didn't. I'm calling BS on this story.
Yeah, I call BS on the story too. Maybe it's not even...
No, you think you would have heard it in the news, especially if this was recently. I don't remember hearing anything in the news about two developers coming to Utah and disappearing.
Right, yeah, that would definitely be in the news.
So I'm calling bullshit on that story, but I just wanted to share it because it's there.
Yeah, two developers come to Utah to go to buy some land, and all of a sudden they disappear. Yeah, there'd be a huge investigation on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I call bullshit on that, but it's still an interesting story.
Yeah.
I think it's just that Magnus's hurlbutt. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but that's how it's spelled. So check this out. Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
I think we're done. That went a lot longer than I thought it would. So
good episode.
It was a very good episode. And I know DVO hates it when we do that, but I don't care. So coming up this Thursday, which is was the 12th, I think? Yes, the 12th.
Yes.
This Friday is Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah.
We should do something spooky. So this Thursday, we were guest on Dr. Ghost Hunters. They have a new episode dropping on Thursday, sometime of the day. There was us and a couple other podcasts. I don't remember their names because we're important. They're not. I have no idea. That's not true. Everybody's important. But anyways, go check out Dr. Ghost Hunters on Thursday and
check out their new episode.
Check out the new episode because we're on it.
Yes, we is.
So, and then but in the meantime, check out our social medias, evp.pod at Instagram and Facebook, where we have videos of stuff.
Reaction
videos. And then you should go to our affiliate link at ghoststop.com, buy some ghost hunting gear. Maybe you can come ghost hunting with us, or just go on your own with Grim Ghost Tours, because they're an awesome group as well.
All right, guys. Ghost, you don't play that.
Peace out, butterflies.
This is the EVP Podcast.